What is the Bills' problem? They can't get off the field on third down. Does a defensive tackle impact more, or does an edge rusher who can sack the quarterback, or a cornerback that can cover a receiver on third down?
So, Dan, I will say that I believe you have a lot of passion with your point. I believe it is a bit reductive. Why are you looking at me like that?
I don't know what that means.
This is the Buffalo Plus Podcast, brought to you by Connors and Ferris.
Welcome. Hello.
Thanks for everybody that was here super early.
Yes. I did love the comment from every letter ever. Credit to me for being here 7 minutes early.
Yes.
All right. Welcome to Buffalo Plus, presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike Catalana, Dan Fates. I am Jenna Cottrell. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. You know how much we appreciate it. We're talking NFL draft, the draft tomorrow. We're going to get into what we expect, the Bills' philosophy, guys that we have seen that have piqued our interest. There's going to be a lot of discussion as well. We were all in the sports office together earlier on today, and I felt like we honestly, Dan, could have already been doing the podcast then.
Yeah, we had a mini podcast.
We have
some hot takes to get off our chest.
Yeah.
And something concerned me a little bit in that conversation.
He's ready.
Jenna, nonstop.
Don't you even dare.
Now, nope. Dan and I have a lot of takes. We want yours. We want your takes. We are going to be following your comments here. So we want people to respond. That's what we want.
Yeah. So in the chat, let us know your comments, your questions, your concerns, and we will get to as many as we can as we talked about, talk kind of about the draft, where the Bills are at and what we expect. All right. So first things first, Michael, what are your expectations as we stand about 25 hours away from night one?
Early in the draft, Bills have to do better. I'm not going to be too hard on last year yet. The Bills have already done that.
Yep.
Based on what we've heard from Bean and from McDermott on Keon. They need him to be better. Josh talked about it yesterday. He's talked to Keon. The best thing that could happen for this team is that Keon comes back a better player. They need it. Dalton Kincaid is a good football player. They need him to be better. These are the guys, they made moves. They made back. They made a move to go up. And the other guy they moved up with in the draft before that got traded to the Cowboys. So this is where it doesn't mean it has to be a superstar.
Correct.
It's got to be a starter. Got to be and I know those guys start. I'm talking about starter plus.
Yeah.
Is what it's got to be for this team.
Yeah, we'll get into that. That's part of one of the questions or the comments that we wanted to raise is how much of a hit does Brandon Beane need, especially in this first round? Because like you said, his last 3 first-round picks have left some of my friends texting me going, what are you guys, what are you hearing? What are they doing? Because I'm anxious. And I think, especially as a fan, I understand that. And then it's also not being scared, though, again, because maybe there is an opportunity, again, to move up and make a move, because 2 out of the last 3 years he's traded up. And last year he traded back twice. But I expect some wheeling and dealing.
Yeah.
But there is that sense of urgency of, hey, this is the biggest draft of Brandon Beane's career, because that is always how it works when you're an NFL GM.
Yeah, the biggest one is always the next one. And obviously, as we stare down round 1 tomorrow, we were in Orchard Park earlier on this week, and Brandon Beane kind of talked about his philosophy. And I thought this was an interesting note of something he had to say about how the draft board is made and what kind of goes into everything for this team.
My board, it's not the scouting board, it's the Buffalo Bills board. Not every player is ranked exactly how I saw them. There are times I'm like, you know what, I'm the minority in the room, and it's painful sometimes. You're like, man, I like that guy more, but it's like 85-15 the room, and I'm hearing them out, and I'm like, all right, better be right though. No,
I do love that. Better be right, though.
Yeah.
Well, I think sometimes the consent, and sometimes when we talk to fans, they're like, well, it's Sean McDermott making the picks, or it's not that. It is a consensus. Obviously, you rely on the scouts, and Brandon Beane is constantly in conversation, talking with the guys. But at the same point, it's not just only Brandon Beane's thought process that goes into a player.
He gives Sean homework.
He did say that.
He didn't use that exact phrase, but he says, I give him a list of players, the guys that, hey, that's why you pay the scouts, right? These guys are boots on the ground. A lot of cases, they are there. They're watching them all year. And it's hard to do with the way college football is now. Then you come back to Sean and say, these are the guys. And Sean's a very good football guy, and he wants to know the type of player. And it is a consensus when you build that board. And I do believe they have to stay that way. But at the end, it is Brandon Beane's call.
Yeah. And it's also tough because especially going into this draft, we've talked about it before. Jen and I are going to repeat it to sound smart over the next 3 days.
Yes.
Because we didn't come up with it, but it's the amount of content that we have consumed to be educated on topics like this is that you will not see as many blue chip players or prospects in this class where scouts and analysts say, hey, this guy is going to be a stud. There feels like there's the consensus too that Travis Hunter is going to be a phenomenal player at whatever position he is, and Abdul Carter. And then everybody else is kind of, they're going to be good. So think of this draft as starters, not stars. That's how you want to look at this draft. There are plenty of starters, especially in this draft, that could make impacts in Buffalo next season.
Now, I did just check with the league, and they got back to me. I asked, is it still possible to find a star past the first 3 picks? And the answer is yes.
Breaking news.
Yes, there are guys that get drafted.
Are you in the building, though?
No.
You're on the NFL building?
We were in the building yesterday.
We were in the building yesterday. Yes, we were. Yeah, and the reason, here we go. Matthew says, I'm fine with Coleman being number 2. This is for Dan, because he says he could be better than Gabe at least, LOL.
Ooh,
I'm going to bite my tongue for what for that one. But yeah, and Mike, we were talking about it a little bit before too, is kind of the broader picture of this draft and understanding it's very unique in the sense of not just the lack of blue chip players, but where the quarterbacks will or will not fall and where they go.
So Ward's going to go 1. I think everybody knows that, right? So Cam Ward goes number 1. From that point on, I don't even know. I guess you could bet this. I don't think it's a guarantee that Shedeur Sanders is the second quarterback. I think he will be.
Correct.
But I don't think it's like a guarantee.
Yeah, he went from like minus 1,600 to like minus 225.
Right. So moving back. And you're right. And when the quarterbacks, like last year was quarterback heavy, it was a pretty good quarterback draft. Like there's some pretty good ones in the draft. It does, the nice thing when you're a team like the Bills, it just pushes the other really good players back. That's not happening this year. You can be excited, Bills fans, when the Patriots go on the clock at 4, unless they've made a trade to move up, because they're only at 4 because of that big victory they got over the Bills in the last day of the regular season. Then they fired their coach 15 seconds after the game ended.
Yeah.
And they went from 1 to 4. Now, even though you're not taking a quarterback, imagine being at 1 and you turn around and say,
come get it.
Yeah. Or you say to Tennessee at 2, you want the quarterback? I'll trade him to somebody else. They they swap, you get an extra number 1. They're not getting any of that. They're going to draft a short arm tackle with their first pick. They are. That's what they're going to do. So,
short arms. Dan has thoughts.
No, we were just talking about it. Like Will Campbell has historically
Sorry.
That was so mean.
That was mean. And you interrupted him.
I haven't said like 8 words this podcast. So
what do they say in the house? I give back my time to the lady from Saratoga.
Gentle lady. They say that sometimes, I think.
We know that's
Will Campbell has a short wingspan, short arm length, even though it measured completely different at the combine and his pro day.
Yeah. Which is interesting that they had they said they used to have the same guy do the measurements. I liked this comment from Diangus. They said, I think 2 out of 3 first picks needs to be impactful players this year. I think that's an interesting point because, Mike, obviously last season, you look at who was drafted and the impact, and it was not a ton of impact.
Certainly in the playoffs, it wasn't.
Yeah.
When you needed, when everybody will always say, there aren't rookies anymore. Right. Towards the end of the year, they didn't get a lot. Now, they still have a very good team. They won a ton of games. They were home in the playoffs until the AFC Championship. I know they had a lot of success, but you need these players. And that's why I say they've done well in other parts of the draft and they've gotten quality players. But, it's like they need Cole Bishop to step up. They need, Dalton Kincaid to step up. Like these guys have not shown to their draft level what the Bills need them to be.
But that's also where Jen and I have been in agreement. The fact, and I'll say it again, and we've said it in multiple podcasts here, the Bills' problem is not 10 through 53 on their roster. The Bills' problem is 1 through 9. That is where they come up short. Because when you take Josh Allen off the roster and you say, who else would start on other playoff teams in the AFC? It's a short list. So that's where it is. I guess I can see the Bills making a move if one of those guys, and Bean says, obviously, we don't have 30 first-round picks, first-round draft grades.
Yeah.
If they want to make a move and they think there is one of those blue-chip guys, in their opinion, to make the move to be an impact guy.
I mean, Bean has talked about how much variance, and I feel like that's kind of one of the buzz things going into this draft is just how differently graded so many guys are. You see in mock drafts, sometimes they go in the first round, sometimes it's like late second, even third, and you don't usually see that type of swings between players. So I do think that is something that's interesting. And also the fact that the Bills are 30th, once again, they're really back there. So I think it's hard for us to predict what they do because there's just so many options with how far back, and we don't know how the board will fall.
Eric DiPietro says, does picking up Trey White have an effect on spending a high pick on cornerback? Well, we're going to talk about the cornerbacks in a little bit, but I would say no, not at all.
Not at all.
No, it should not.
No, because it's a 1-year deal, only a few million guaranteed.
It'd be like saying, I mean, it's different caliber of players, but it'd be like saying Joey Bosa, signing him means you can't draft an edge rusher.
Right.
Like you need a
1-year deal.
Yeah, you need as many of them as you can.
Actually, it's a pretty good comparison.
Well, one person's hopefully in the prime of their career, and one person is on hole 15 of 18. The back end.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think they're more similar than you would think. Only because
actually,
both have been all-pro players.
Sorry,
both have been
bouncing.
No, honestly, both.
Well, no, thinking about it, though,
they've had injuries.
Yeah,
that has really derailed them.
Yeah,
they have played exceptionally at times, and they're both here on 1-year deals. So I see what you're.
There's different expectations.
That's fair. Oh my God, just like
you,
two things you have just
You
just
hope
in the middle. I'm in the middle on purpose.
You hope Joey Bosa is a Pro Bowl caliber player. You are paying him to be an impact starter right now. You hope Trey White is a starter. And honestly, in a perfect world, you'd hope he's not.
He's not the starter.
Exactly. So the expectations are different.
That's where I'm talking about in the back nine of their career.
And Eugene says White is finished. Come on. I don't know if he's finished. I know they don't think of him as a starter. They said will compete for it.
Yep.
He may end up there early in the year, depending. But they are drafting. They need, they've got 3 picks in the first 2 rounds. They need to get a corner. And that corner will be targeted to start on the opposite side. That doesn't mean Benford. That doesn't mean it's day one. That doesn't mean you don't need a veteran there until the kid is ready and whenever that is. But believe me, if that rookie comes in and he's ready to go, he is going to start on that other side.
100%. And I've said this before about other positions, whether it's DeMar Hamlin. If DeMar Hamlin starts, that's more of an indictment on Cole Bishop than if Trey White starts. That's an indictment on whoever the rookie that comes in. So, and the one thing the Bills always talk about, and they stress it time and time again, getting the right kind of people. And I can't express enough how Trey White is that type of person. He was the first pick in the McDermott era, and wanting to help turn that process around. You could probably find better cornerbacks in the market. I'd argue right now you can't find a much better person than Trey White. And I remember sitting down with him right after COVID, Mike.
Yeah.
When we did the interview, and I sat down with him about he was a high school quarterback and his kind of journey and all of these things, right? And the one comment I knew that stood out to me, and the one remark he said was, he finds more joy in his career. This was, again, 3-4 years ago, in helping other players. It was Dane Jackson, Levi Wallace, those guys. He goes, I've had the All-Pro. I've had my accolades. I now get more joy out of getting you, these guys, their talent and their recognition, their flowers. That to me is what embodies Trey White at this stage of his career, and what Beane and McDermott is the type of guy they want him to come in.
Yeah, but also I think they know the upside that he can have. And
Absolutely.
That's the hope, is what does he have left in the tank after the injuries? And I mean, Beane even talked about how at the back half of last season, you saw a player removed from the injuries, like looking more like himself.
Yep.
So to me, it's like, is there any found money there? Are you going to find are you got a guy that you know is a great addition to your locker room, will help mentor younger players, and also is he able to play at a level that is higher than what most guys that you're signing on the week of the draft would bring you?
It's a comfy pair of jeans you've had for a long time. You know they fit well, and then you're like, oh, $20.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Never happened to me.
Yes, I agree. I think his knowledge of the defense allows him to play better in Buffalo than in other places.
1000%.
So I believe that helps. It would be great if Trey could play.
Yeah.
I will say this. I know Beane said that about later in the year. I don't know. I don't know. He's saying he looked a little bit better. He did. It was rough in LA. It was not great. But he's back home. He's comfortable. And this defense is one he knows extremely well. He's worked with certainly with Benford. It is funny. He talked about talking to Micah and Jordan all the time. And he did say if they won a Super Bowl last year, he'd expect an honorary ring, which was pretty funny. So now he can try to go get one. But yeah,
I think it's a low risk, high reward move.
And
me,
and the contract says it.
I was to say essentially what the floor is. You're not expecting him to be. He could be the starter, but you're not like he is the day one starter, whatever.
I hope he's not, like you said. I hope he's not the starter.
Same.
I hope
that's fair.
And by the way, somebody just said we're going to talk corners. Said about Trey Amos. I would trade back at a 3rd round pick and hope Trey Amos is available. You watched my mock draft.
Yeah, I worry about trading back and still getting your guy.
All right. Well, we'll talk corners.
That's my biggest fear.
That's fair. Okay. Well, there was a comment earlier from TR that said, I don't like our safeties. And if you look at some of the mocks, they do have the Bills taking a safety, which again, I think would say a lot about what they see in Cole Bishop and what they see out of him. But do you think that is a possibility in the 1st round, realistically?
Yeah, I think it's a possibility only because when you are sitting there, and if there is not a really smart move to go back, or other teams sitting there that aren't as interested in coming into the 1st round for whatever reason, we always talk about that 5th-year option for teams to move there. If you're sitting there, you say to yourself, who's the best player that's available on this list? Now, I know what Dan's going to say because he told us about it in the pre-pod, that if you draft a safety, what do you got there? Because you have now a 3rd safety. But, and where does that player go on the field? You're not playing more than 2 safeties, right? So he's got to beat out one of the 2 safeties. And are you admitting a mistake with Cole Bishop already? I don't think so.
I would be shook if the Bills took a safety in the 1st round. And there are a lot of people that are way smarter than me and analyze players and have mock drafts, and that's been their career. And more than a few have Malachi Starks, the safety from Georgia, mocked to the Bills at 30. And I would just be stunned.
Really? Yeah. But why?
Because you're creating a personnel problem, a self-inflicted one. You spent a 2nd round pick last year on Cole Bishop, and he's played a handful of games. And they always talk about you need time to learn the system and all that stuff. And then you're already pulling the ripcord, because if it's Malachi Starks, he's a guy that plays Cole Bishop's position. Now, if you're going to try and tell me that you're going to, and listen, I'm all for taking a safety because I don't know what Taylor Rapp, his injury history, he's only got 2 years left on his contract. Like, if you want to tell me that you want to upgrade the position, I'm all for it, but not there. It's almost like, to me, it was like trading up for Kincaid. Like when they took Kincaid, I was like, what? Was it nice? It was the fact of you had just paid a tight end.
They still did it though.
And they tried to change, and they were implementing the system.
And
they
got
said he was
without getting a wide receiver.
Okay, right. But I'm just saying there is that created a little bit of an issue.
Yeah.
And you then had to change your entire system.
Yeah,
and
because then you start playing 12 more often.
Yeah.
So you're changing things. And again, to me, I would be stunned. If they took a wide receiver at 30, I'd be like, all right.
Because you put 4 and 5 out on the field sometimes. The other thing I will say is I think the days of it being full on strong safety, free safety, and they play almost different positions, I think you can mix and match a little bit. I think you can have similar skill sets. And I don't know what they think the long-term hope is for Taylor Rapp either.
And that's fair.
That's why I could see them doing it, because I think there's not the longevity out of Taylor Rapp.
What if they took Emignori, who is bigger than Terrell Bernard? He's bigger than linebackers.
Yeah.
He's a freak athlete. I do not see that happening because
I think that a safety is very plausible in this draft. I think it could happen on Friday. I'm completely out if they take one on Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay.
What were you giggling about?
Oh no, my dad just texted me. My parents are in Boston, and they told me their order for dinner.
Oh my God, she's so focused on her parents going to Italian place.
Italian place, egg parm, veal parm.
You see what we put up with?
Is it 97 degrees in here?
Yes, it's so hot in here.
Honestly,
that makes you seem like the old man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's not great
but you
for the
two
old
are
man take.
constantly whining about how warm it is.
It's very hot in our studio.
Normally I wear a hoodie, where I was like, I'm just going to go t-shirt today.
Do you all have a wild card first round draft pick? Ryan Braun asking.
Malachi Stark.
Yes.
Yeah.
There it is. That would be my most surprising position.
But plausible. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay. If you want to go like
if they drafted
left,
a tight end, we'd be like, what?
No, it'd be like a left tackle. You'd be like, what?
I mean, that
would be the
that
craziest.
would be wild. Yeah.
Yeah.
I can understand a lot of positions. I can get behind corner. I can get behind edge rusher. I can get behind defensive tackle, even though I want to get to that in a little bit.
Receiver.
All those things. I really can't get behind a safety in the first round.
A lot of people commenting that a draft of a safety is more of an indictment on Rapp than it is on Bishop. And that player would replace Rapp. And I don't disagree with that.
That's fair. That's fair. But
Okay.
man.
Yeah.
Which also this is
I get
this is the reminder that follow what they do, not what they say, because that will show you how they feel about a position group and maybe a specific player.
That'd be a young back half of a defense.
Yeah, it doesn't mean the 32nd pick has to start right away.
Yeah. Well, they love doing that. All right, where do we want to go with position now? Oh, this is perfect. Nicholas Younger saying DT is my priority. A lot of talk about.
Oh, Dan's off the DTs already. He's done. He's saying no defensive tackle, right?
Yeah, I just tweeted out right before we came on here my list of position rankings for what I would want. And to me, one and two, or 1A and 1B is corner and edge rusher. And whatever you don't get, like your first 3 picks, if you got a corner in the first round, early second round, I'd want the edge rusher. And my big point is this. There's all this talk that the Bills need a one technique defensive tackle. And whether that's Derek Harmon, whether that's Kenneth Grant, some of those guys, which I don't think they're there. Harmon may be there. I really don't believe Grant is there at 30. Well, my big point here is this. Do the Bills need to improve their running defense? Yes. And would a big one tech defensive tackle do that? Yeah, their job is to eat up double teams. Yes. But how have they gotten beat in the playoffs? They've gotten beat by Mahomes and Joe Burrow by throwing the football. So if the Bills defense, rushing defense, goes from 20th to 15th because you got some player, I think their overall defense, what is the Bills' problem? They can't get off the field on third down. Does a defensive tackle impact more, or does an edge rusher who can sack the quarterback, or a cornerback that can cover a receiver on third down? What is more impactful in my opinion? And to me, you can get a large defensive tackle that can eat up double teams and just be a big body to free up Ed Oliver on day 3. I am really passionate about the biggest way to affect these quarterbacks is to have better corners and to get to the quarterback by an edge rusher.
That's fair. He's so passionate right now. I can tell.
So, Dan, I will say that I believe you have a lot of passion with your point. I believe it is a bit reductive.
Ooh, interesting. Also, someone says, Wolfgang, my name's Jenna, and that's fair. That's funny. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, why are you looking at me like that?
I don't know what that means.
What do you think it means? Reductive.
I thought
Context clues, like it's
I thought
reductive.
I thought it meant repetitive, but it's
no.
but it's
Means-
not.
Think about what does reduce mean? Like
Shrinking.
yeah,
Smaller.
You're making it too
Simplified.
Thank you, Michael.
So I didn't mean to throw you off there.
Did you see my face?
Yes.
It was a deer in headlights.
Okay,
Help
so
me.
by the way, now we know why Dan sweats in the podcast. It has nothing to do with his clothes. It's words that throw him off. The reason I say this is because you speak of it as in the D lineman affecting the run game, because it's this idea of the one technique, the guy who's got to play more of a nose tackle and all. I believe the game has changed a little bit. I believe edge rushers are still very important, but you need impactful players on the inside of your defense. It isn't always sacks and pressure. It is more pressure. It is more collapsing the middle to open it up for the outside.
Yep.
I think you're looking a bit for a unicorn if you think you're just going to find this one tech and you're going to sit him there. I think put a really good player next to Ed Oliver. It would help Ed Oliver. No disrespect to Daquan. I think Daquan's best time is done. He can still play there, and maybe with less snaps, Daquan could become a little more effective on the early downs.
Yep.
But I think you need a more disruptive defensive tackle. So I wouldn't just say, to your point, and a lot of people have said that, oh, they need this guy for the run game. I think you need a guy to be impactful on the inside to open things up for Rousseau and Bosa on the outside.
And my rebuttal,
Yes.
Oh, good.
Nice.
Yes.
nailed it. So that is, you have that disruptive defensive tackle. That's Ed Oliver. Like you have, so for people that are like, you need a defensive tackle, like you need the pressure up the middle to affect the quarterback. It's Ed. You have that. So if you need somebody to be, breaking news. Damn, that would have been my comment.
Yes.
That was that was a good.
That would have been reductive.
Yes.
Yeah.
repetitive. Yeah.
Yeah, both. Yeah.
The point is that you have created this system where you have a small, undersized defensive tackle that is supposed to be the penetrator. Like that is what Ed Oliver is supposed to do. And when Ed Oliver is at his game, that's exactly what he does. It was the Detroit game, right? He had 11 quarterback pressures or whatever it was. And Sean made the comment that like, oh, whenever you guys you say he can't do it, you pissed him off. And then he was great. Keep pissing him off. Like, but then why do you need to waste the first round pick? Like if that's what you want is a guy to eat up double teams. And if that's the case, get any good defensive tackle. Don't limit yourself to a one technique.
So if Walter Nolan is available, do you not want Walter Nolan on the team? I think you would want Walter Nolan.
Absolutely.
Right.
But this thought of like, there's very few one technique defensive tackles that also are pass rushers. It's Dexter Lawrence and like Vita Vea. Everybody else, their job is to be the fire hydrant. Like to get, it's the fire hydrant, the dog show. It's the who said that? Former Bill Phillips, Harrison Phillips.
Oh, Harrison Phillips. Yes.
Okay.
Is that what D tackles are?
That's what it is. So I think you can get a fire hydrant on day 3 and allow Ed to do what Ed's supposed to do. That's if you're somebody that wants and their heart is set on a one tech. That's fine. And I can't even explain the X's and O's to that level of extent. I know their main job is to eat up double teams, to free up linebackers and other edge rushers. But my thought is you have a defensive tackle that is supposed to affect the quarterback. If you want a guy that just stops the run, I wouldn't waste a first round pick on it.
My thought back though is there's a lot of depth on this defensive line in terms of the draft. So I feel like the ceiling is higher early on. I know like there's depth there, but like, wouldn't you want to get a higher rated ceiling player? Do you know what I'm saying? Does that make
You're
sense?
saying is as opposed, don't take D line in the first pick because there are multiple defensive.
No,
linemen.
I'm saying like there's so many good ones. Why wouldn't you go get them now? I get what you're saying. There's the supply for you to wait,
Right.
But I guess it's just you say like wouldn't it be great if Ed Oliver was playing next to a guy that was really good? Like, wouldn't two be better than one? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, if the Bills had all good players, that would be.
But I'm saying like I don't think that's a knock for not having a defensive tackle. Like I think Ed has played well, but I think he would want him to be even more disruptive. And by having a guy next to him that he can eat up double teams or do whatever to free up Ed, I think that would also give you the pass rush that you want, or at least impact that in that way.
Yeah.
I don't disagree. It's the fact of people's infatuation with the one tech and kind of eliminating other defensive tackles, saying, well, this guy doesn't fit here. Like maybe Dwayne Carter is that guy. Maybe Dwayne Carter ends up being somewhat of that rotational piece.
Well, they think he can be.
Yeah,
they've at least thought that. So yeah.
I guess wouldn't you want, like you've seen Ed's obviously undersized, so wouldn't you want a guy that can kind of like balance out that, and then like I said, just free up Ed
100%
to have that ability? Because
100%.
you also invested a top 10 pick in Ed Oliver. Don't you want to see him?
And you paid him again.
And you paid him again. And I think we've said that Ed has had a nice Bills career, but you would absolutely, as what was he, 8th overall? Like you want him to be that guy, and by helping him out, I think that would allow him the opportunity to develop even more.
You know, and I wonder, like a lot of people have like Grant, right? They think that Grant, because of his size, and Kenneth Grant, because he is that guy, the closest thing you would think there, run stopper. The third down, Bain even talked about that. Like you want guys that can be out there on third down when you need pass rush. You can't have a guy out there who's not going to impact the pass rush at all. A lot of times with these players, this is all they've done. And you read about them and you think most of the scouts are thinking at some point the disruption on passing downs can come. I'm not saying he's got to be great from day one, but you can't wait 3 years for him to become. We talk about how the Eagles have done in the draft. They drafted Jordan Davis, big tackle. He's a first and second down player. That hasn't gone anywhere past that. And he's got Jalen Carter in there. He's a big, more of a 1 or a 3, more of a 3 technique, I guess, guy that would be. They're probably not going to give him the 5th-year option because he just hasn't. Maybe this is the year to do it. So, you know, then you can wait if you want to wait. There's Alfred Collins.
I was literally just about to ask your thoughts on him.
I like
him.
Massive.
6'7", 360.
I like Alfred
I don't know
Collins.
if he's that high. The last thing I saw, it had him in the 340s. Still considered a 2-down player. But you maybe, who knows? You may be able to get him with your second pick in the second, as opposed to taking a guy like Grant at 30.
I like Kenneth Grant, though.
Yes, I just don't think he's there. I don't think he gets past the Chargers.
And that's fine. And we won't know.
Right.
Yeah.
And
it's Michigan, the Chargers, right?
Yeah.
So I don't think most of the mocks I've seen. But again, I just look at it too as like, what is the Bills' biggest Achilles heel? It's getting off the field on third downs. They had been actually like historically good on first down and had been historically bad on third down.
But your point about even with Mahomes, I never think of it with Mahomes as he's back there, he's got all day, he's chucking it 30 yards down the field. He is beating you with smart, relatively quick decisions that he does. And we've watched it. It almost feels like he can get there even before your outside pass rush.
So a corner would be great. That could cover.
That's fair. I mean, I hear you.
So that's why.
But what do you think the Bills do? I hear what you're saying about what you want, and I hear what you're saying about what you want. But what do we think the Bills do?
I think they want to improve their defensive line.
I agree. I completely agree.
I think it
starts up front. You can hear like what they have to say in terms. It's in the trenches. All that.
I think the Bills very badly want to improve their defensive line. Starts up front, line of scrimmage. I think they've nailed the offensive line. I think that Bean hasn't done it yet on the defensive line. I think that's part of it.
Yeah.
So I that's where I can see them going for an edge rusher. And I'd be totally fine with that. I mean, they have to be better on the defensive line. There were times when they got out-physicaled, out-manned in that spot. Daquan Jones, football's a man whooping another man.
Yep.
And they got whooped.
John Spiller. I think Alfred Collins at 6'6", he says 320.
Yeah.
35-inch arms, blocks passes. A difference maker, even if it's a difference maker early on.
Yeah.
I do think it does help you, but when we talk about value, and I love Darius Alexander.
I love that man too.
I want to see him get him. I think they can get him in the second round.
Can move. And Mike and I were joking around about, you talk about, and he made an Eagles analogy because he had to, because obviously, I don't know if you guys know this, they won the Super Bowl.
No, I have not even mentioned that.
Totally. But it's the fact of the defensive line and all of these things, and this guy fits here and this guy fits here in this system and all that stuff. At some point too, wouldn't you just put out the best 4 pass rushers on the defensive line and say, just get to the quarterback, figure it out? So we sometimes get so set, and maybe that's one of the most adamant and passionate about is don't get so lost in the sauce of we need a one tech. We need a one tech. You need good defensive line.
Yeah.
That's what you need. You need guys that can stop the run, some guys that can, a large human being would be nice to pair alongside. It's the basketball, like you were talking about. If you have a small shooting guard, you better have a big point guard.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you
can't match up.
That's
on
like
defense.
with Ed Oliver, though. He's a bit undersized. So
Right.
you want to have a big body next
but you've
to him.
invested in Ed. So that is where it gets to. So you've made your bed and you've created this system.
Yeah.
I don't think you're pulling the plug on it now.
No, I agree. That's why I'm saying I could see them going D tackle, because you did invest in Ed. So give him the tools and the player next to him to help him.
Yeah,
succeed.
and it's not just the position. Like Eugene says, the D lineman, I can't remember his name. He's a D lineman from Florida. He's over 400 pounds. So there's probably a zero tech for you, or one tech. Just put him over top of him.
Yeah.
But just because he's that guy doesn't mean
he's that guy.
Chris Jones lines up everywhere.
Yeah.
Chris Jones lines up at the end. He lines up over the center. He lines up over the guard.
He's disruptor.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, get
and
good
a
players.
second round pick.
Yes.
Get good players. That's the hot take from this podcast, this live show.
There's some struggles over the last couple of years to get good players early.
Yep.
In my opinion.
So, and Andy says
humble
Bean
opinion.
will find a trade and get a third. That's I think if you move back. If you move back, you can try to pick up a third.
But the fear is when does that run on cornerbacks go?
Okay.
So let's talk about it.
We can talk about Bean said about corners.
Let's talk about it.
I asked Bean yesterday, so we're live here on, well, I guess because some people would be watching this tape on Wednesday. I asked him on Tuesday, when you're evaluating corners, we know the Bills are a zone heavy team, though there's a lot of people thinking that bringing in some coaches.
A lot of people.
There's a lot of people. A lot of people are saying it. That they'll play more man. That may be the case, but they are a zone heavy team. So I asked him about evaluating players to play either man or zone. And if a player in college, like all of a sudden you look at a talent, but you say, this guy played a lot of man, how do you evaluate that he can make the adjustment? It didn't happen great with Kaiir Elam because they thought he could. But here's what Brandon Bean had to say about evaluating players in a different scheme than the Bills use.
So you're trying to dig in why the school didn't play him that way. It may not be the player's fault. It may be that's just the way that defense, that coach wants to play, and you get around the kid. And sometimes that's where we'll do a private. We'll go out there, send the coach out there, and get on the board with them, give them some things, and watch their movement, how you would play them. It's still projecting.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a projection because it did not work with Kaiir Elam.
There's, again, I think what Bean is talking about is traits and fit.
Yeah. But there is, he went into a whole thing about like, why is the player playing a different position than you would see him? And sometimes it's just what that team wanted to do, what that coach wanted to do. It doesn't mean he can't do it, but you need to figure out, because that's why I think the Bills, the first trait I think they believe for corners, obviously there has to be a certain level of physical ability, is up here.
I disagree.
They want corners to be smart and able to learn and read and understand. The reason I bring that up is it's a skill in a zone defense to know how to know the positioning, how to run players from your spot to the next spot, how to work with your safeties. Like there's guys who could play man because they're physically gifted and they are just that good at it and they use it. But I do think they believe they want their corners to be thinkers.
Yeah.
You disagree with that?
Well, no, I feel like with Kyer, they didn't think about that. I think Kyer, they saw someone opposite of Trey White that had the length, that could be a bit more physical, could be an athlete. And he wasn't able to, like you said, he wasn't as instinctual as you needed him to be. So maybe now, again, the pendulum usually swings back. You're going to go for guys that are able to digest and look at a defense and be able to figure things out. But Dan is
pensive.
Yeah.
Kyer had the notebook.
He did.
He did. But that doesn't mean he's instinctual. I think he was a better athlete.
And they went through different coaches. You know, the first coach didn't like him. I'm talking about Butler.
Yeah.
Roy Collins said, I still believe Elam was a panic pick. But they did trade up to get him.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one,
so
Roy.
That's, but
yeah.
But they did trade up to.
Yeah, I'm with Jenna.
They traded up because they were like,
but they traded up 2 spots.
Yes.
That's what
the Chiefs had already traded ahead of them.
To get Trent McDuffie.
Yeah, it still doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
I'm not saying. I think you're right. The pick itself did not make sense. I think they were like.
No, I think the pick made sense because he was a little bit. He was a taller guy. He was an athlete. He had the pedigree. His dad played in the league. Like the knock on him was that he was too handsy. Like a lot of flags. Obviously, you saw that to be the case. I think they saw an athlete and they thought they could mold this guy into the corner they wanted him to be. But unfortunately, he didn't have the instincts, that I think were expected of him. And he wasn't able to learn the defense in a way that you have to be proficient enough to do to succeed in this defense.
I agree. The only reason I say it's like they got corner on their mind, best player available. They needed a corner. They thought they were going to try to get McDuffie. They didn't get him. They're like, oh boy, there's only one corner we have ranked in whatever position. So I think he was on their board. I think he was relatively high on their board, but it didn't work because there are a lot of corners to look at in this draft.
There are.
Yeah. I didn't know if you guys had a player that you would have been, or maybe a position. I know we've kind of talked about it, that you would be kind of stunned by. Like for me, the guys, we talk about the instincts and what they look for in a corner, like Maxwell Hairston would be the one guy that I would be surprised if they went there because of he's not a very physical corner. He's undersized at 5'11", doesn't tackle well.
It's the tackling for me.
So like
it's the tackling.
So like that's the one where I'd be like, what? Like they went corner like I was hoping, but they went the guy that I didn't think fit their system and scheme and philosophy. So I didn't know if there was enough. Like I even think Revel would be fine. Like I know he's a little bit of a risk.
Yeah.
But I think he can play.
I like Tommy Hill too. Plantar fasciitis. He didn't play for a little bit because of that. And I don't know what his status is with that, but I just saw the guy he was from Nebraska. I was like, I feel like this could be a fit. But going off of what you're saying, when I'm looking at draft like prospects and player profiles, I'll read so much and I'll be like, nah, this guy is not a Bills guy. Hairston. I was like, this guy is not a Bills guy. To me, at least.
Yeah.
But you're right. I could definitely see other players. I mean, I know you guys like Amos.
I Terry.
Wrong.
Yes. Or Trey, as some others call him. I think Revel is more of a man corner, but he fits the rest of a Bills mode.
Yep.
Listen, you don't think of your corner as being a tackler. You want them to tackle. You want them to commit to it. It's sort of like one of Dan's favorite things. It's sort of like blocking for a wide receiver. They need to be able to do it and they need to commit to it. Yeah. Right? But if you got a guy who can really cover, you just need him to show the right effort, be in the right spot and be in on the tackle. Like, hey fellas, I need some help over here, but get there. It's great to be a good tackler, but you need him to be the corner first and foremost.
I always remember talking to Rasul Douglas, and he had made a couple of tackles early on in games, early in the season. I remember the one against the Dolphins because it was right in front of me. Sweep comes around the end. He sheds his wide receiver, comes down, cuts the running back down. And I was like, man, that turns a 2nd and 10 into a 3rd and 13. Like, that's a massive play. And I was like, hey, do you think you're under respected with your tackling ability? You're known as this ball hawking corner with all these interceptions. Do you like tackling? And he was like, I hate it. He's like, I don't
He's so
want,
honest.
I don't want to do it at all. And he's like, but the coaches tell me I got to do it. And it was like, respect. Like you like, this is going to suck. I'm going to take this guy on and it's going to hurt, but like, that's what the team needs. So the one guy too, that I was thinking about, Trey White, hear me out. Because a lot of guys, if you're a really good corner in college, you play man. Like you're just that athletically talented, like a Kyer.
Mm-hmm.
But Trey learned so much about the scheme and the fit and the system. So to your point, Mike, like, it is something too about between the ears, because you have to have the traits to be a man, to cover one-on-one and say, I got this guy. But you also, like you said, pass him off. This is my zone. Read. Like, I don't know. Like, like the great corners, Stingley, like, they're good enough in college to just play man. Like, and then they have the ability to learn, adapt into the system and be coachable. And then all of a sudden they can play anything and it disguises coverage.
Taron Johnson was an outside corner in college.
Where'd he go?
Weber.
Yeah, Weber State. Yes.
He got drilled with a football at the combine.
Yes,
that's so true. Wasn't there another Bills guy that had something happen? Sorry.
Somebody fell, didn't they?
Yeah.
Can't remember. Okay.
Somebody's going to put it in the comments.
Yeah.
Shakir fall.
But look at the transition they had him do.
Yeah.
They put him in the slot.
Yeah.
Like, they had to look at him and go, can he make this transition? Not only did he make the transition, now this wasn't a 1st-round draft pick. Not only did he make the transition, he's one of the best slot corners in the league. So there are guys who can do it. That's the reason I like Amos so much, is he has the experience in the zone. He's a willing tackler. He's played special teams. I just think he fits the Bills' profile of a corner.
Could definitely see that.
I mean, he's the size, the 6'1", 195. I know you were talking about Will Johnson.
Yeah.
Before.
This is very interesting because I think a lot of people, he's the cornerback from Michigan, thought for sure he's going to be a top 10 player the way that he played. I mean, he has comical numbers. I mean, he's got like Christian Benford numbers where it's like, hasn't allowed this pass and all of this stuff. Then all of a sudden you start to see medical coming out and he starts falling and he kind of starts falling and these are red flags about his knee and things like that. I saw a mock draft today from somebody I very well respect, didn't have him going in the 1st round. Wow. Peter Schrager had him going 28. And I texted one of my friends and I was like, hey, what if Will Johnson is still on the board? And he's like, if he's still on the board at 20, I would reach up to him. So I reached out and the one person said, like, his knee is a massive red flag, that it is a cartilage issue to some respects. And those are kind of ticking time bombs. So some people don't have him going in the 1st round. I've seen other mock drafts that have him going at latest 13 to the Miami Dolphins. Like, that is how wide of a spectrum that is for this guy to go from 13. Some people have him going to the Saints at 9, possibly. And then you have other people that don't have him in the 1st round.
Isn't it wild that you think about the mindset of your GM or your head coach when you're making decisions? Like, let's just say Johnson, they look at him and go, like, after 5 years, you don't know what he's going to be. And you got a GM in a spot that's sitting there going, I don't know if I'm going to be here in 5 years.
Yeah.
And I'm not kidding when it comes to this.
That's
like,
what Bean said.
Well, you say, like, I need this guy and I need him today. And I hope his cartilage holds out as long as is, but like, I need him. He's the best player. I'm going to take him.
Or you could look at the window is now. And I need a guy that's going to be lockdown corner for.
If the medicals on Johnson might be an issue there, that puts Bean in play for that only because of what Jenna just said. Yeah. It's like, he's the guy right now.
He's a stud. Like, his tape, all of those things. You watch his film from Michigan and you go, he's a top 10 pick. Like, there's no question. And then all of a sudden you start to see more and more about it. Fascinating in that respects of what could be there. And the only other reason I wanted to bring that up is my one last thing that I had was more likely to trade up or trade down in the first round to you guys?
Okay, wait, real quick. There's a really good comment, and then I think we can get into that.
Okay.
So Steven Jordan said, can you talk about why there is no emphasis on wide receiver? Palmer is cool and all, but we had to trade midseason last year for a wide receiver, and we're worse off now than then. I think that's actually a very good comment because we really haven't talked about wide receiver all that much. And honestly, it was interesting yesterday. Josh Allen came out with the Everybody Eats hat established 2024. Bean, did you ask Bean about everybody? No, sorry. It was John Scott who asked.
I asked Josh about it.
Yes, but John Scott asked Brandon Bean about it, essentially saying like, yeah, if there's a good wide receiver there, we're going to take it. And it's not just because everybody eats. Like, that's a nice mantra, but we're still out in the market. I think it's a good point.
Yeah,
I do. But it is interesting because, yeah, like you hope that Curtis Samuel is more healthy and plays better, but Mac Hollins is gone. What are you going to get out of Keon in year 2? You just paid Khalil Shakir, who's done very well for you, but it'd be silly not to say you want to add another guy that can add to your wide receiver group.
Well, that's what I asked Josh. It's like, when you look at Shakir's numbers, they were pretty good. Unfortunately, on the Bills, as great as the overall offense was, they're not spectacular wide receiver numbers. But he was, 25 more catches than everybody, 250 yards more. If he takes a step up, let's just say it's Khalil. Let's say they bring in a wide receiver to help, but Shakir's numbers go up to 100 catches this year and 1,100 yards. Is it still everybody eats if one guy's eating more than everybody? I don't think it changes the mindset they want for the team.
Yeah.
But you better believe, and Bean did say this, you better believe if all of a sudden, and I'm just use Shakir as the example because he's already on the roster and you've already paid him. If Shakir just takes off this year, goes from being a really good player to a great one, they're not going to worry one little bit about throwing him the ball a ton and him putting up big numbers. So everybody eats is nice.
Well,
until you get a guy that warrants.
But the point is also, though, of like, why haven't we talked as much about wide receiver? Because I think that is an excellent point of like, did they figure it out last year? Yes, they did. But you lost guys. Okay, you bring in Palmer. What's he going to add? You still want top tier players. Like, what are we talking about here?
I'm going to let Dan talk because
it bothers me though.
No,
sorry, I'm getting triggered.
I'm going to say one quick thing off of Jenna. I think the reason we're not talking about wide receiver as much is because they need the other positions even a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think that is like, that defense needs youth and playmakers.
Yeah.
And I do believe it's not like there's a spot. It's not like they need basically almost at all levels. Yeah. They need some help. They're okay at edge.
He said it was going to be something quick.
I know. They're okay at edge. They need a young edge. They need a tackle.
They need violence.
Yes. And they need a corner.
Never thought I'd say that, but
there are wide receivers out there that I believe could step in and play a considerable role on this team.
Well, yeah. And again, I had Khalil Shakir leading the Bills last year in terms of yards, and that was great. Oh, thank you. Yes. But it's like, what else are you going to do? You need to continue to add because you got far, but you need to go farther.
Do you know why we're not talking about it as much? About the wide receiver needing it?
Why?
I don't have the capacity to get hurt again. I don't have it in me. I sold out last year.
Meanwhile, I'm like, I'm ready to get hurt.
I sold out and I had my heart broken, and I don't have the heart to be back up and to buy into like all these wide receivers. I've been hurt too many times.
Damn.
I was banging the wide receiver drum for 3 years, and we're like, well, at least if they don't get the top guy, they'll come out of the draft with 3 of them.
We said at least 2,
and they didn't. And I'm broken. I'm a broken man.
How about this? With the 30th pick,
they traded to the Chicago Bears for
for
Roma Dunze.
Oh my
god! Oh my god! Could you imagine?
With the 30th pick, the Buffalo Bills select wide receiver Luther Burden from Missouri.
Love it.
I like him a lot.
Yeah,
I know he's a diva.
Yeah.
First of all, there's divas, and then there's coming into Buffalo with Josh Allen. Like, could we get 3 good years out of him?
Yeah.
I think the guy is, I think he's a exceptional talent. Doesn't mean he is going to be a superstar, but like that kind of player runs through contact. To me, he looks like a bigger Diggs.
Yeah. That would be great. I'm just not going to get my hopes up and sit there and say, hey, at 30, you know what they could do? I'm not.
But this is what men do when you expect them to, they don't. But then they'll be like, oh, you know what? I did this.
Here are the flowers. Like, oh,
yeah,
I did it.
I would be happy. I'd be like, all right, they fixed a need. That is absolutely a need.
Massive.
And it's also a numbers need, right? I mean, you lost from the guys who dressed every game,
Cooper and Mack.
And you replaced them
with Palmer.
So from a numbers perspective, they need
let's see some speed.
I've heard this. It's just so painful to hear. It's too soon. It's just too soon.
By the way, you know, they could draft a Jordan Phillips. They could draft a Kyle Williams. You want a speed wide receiver.
Yes.
Is there a Josh Allen in this draft?
Oh my gosh.
Also, if the Bills do trade up, and that's the other thing too, we were talking about making the moves and things like that, because these players are viewed as not one, it's not like there's a shelf, right? Like, it's not like, okay, after this pick, then you get the next tier and the next tier. Like, after 4 or 5, they're all kind of the same. So if you're going to make a move, it would have to be a big move, because the gap between talent and what their rankings are in the views of, you know, talent is not that much in between 2 or 3 picks. Like, you would just wait, because there'd be no point in giving up the draft capital to move up to gain a guy that's just a little bit better. But if the Bills are not on the clock by 25, they're not trading up. So the two spots,
fair.
Two spots that they can make moves to is Denver at 20 and Minnesota at 25.
Denver at 20, that would cost.
Yep.
I mean,
Minnesota only has 4 picks.
Only has 4 picks. Minnesota's trading back. Like, they're going to trade back. They need more players.
Yeah, but everyone knows Minnesota needs picks.
Right. So, but that's the thing, is that, like, hey, there's the mark, is that if they're not, I just don't see the Bills trading up to 27. I don't see anything like that kind of a move, because the gap between the 27th player you have on your board and the guy
you can go in a different direction.
Because I don't think the what you're gaining is worth the draft capital it would take to get back up there.
I agree, and you also have so many needs that you can use a different.
I'm just a little lost there with what you're saying. Is like, what if you can't get up to, say, you wanted to go to 20, and Denver's like, nope, we're not making a move, and that player you want, and just for the argument here, let's just say it was a wide receiver and it's Golden.
Okay.
Right? Okay. And now you're sitting there at 25 and he's still on the board. You wouldn't make a move to 27?
I hear you. I think it depends on the price.
Yeah.
I mean, you know that their mind triggers at a certain point. They got their eyes on certain players, and then they go.
I think those spots are teams that also have bigger needs. Like, you know what I'm saying? Is that, like, the 2 most obvious spots are 20 and 25. That's what I'm saying, is those are the key spots. And so are you going to give up a full arm and a leg to move up 2 picks?
It's not, I mean, you're going to give up.
The price.
Yes. I think to move up, when I was doing the mock draft, I had one calculation to move up to the Rams. The Rams were at 26, 27, and it cost the Bills a 4th.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
So, I mean, yeah, I think, but I don't know. Is there a wide receiver they would move up for?
I love Golden. So. But again,
he could go to Dallas. He could go to.
I don't expect them to, but
nope.
Yeah.
I don't expect them to get a wide receiver with the first pick. I expect them to go D-line. All right. What was your thought? Whatever.
No, that was it.
No, it was a move up, move back. Oh, is that?
That was it.
Oh, okay.
So more likely. We never really said what's more likely.
More likely to me is move back.
Oh, I don't think there's any question. More likely is to move back.
Which I hate.
So here's my only thing.
Oh.
We've talked a lot about teams wanting to move back, right? That's what want to get more picks. And we've talked about, like there's more teams at the end of the first round, teams that want to get back in, which makes it more likely. But are there teams in the teens that want to move back? And the Bills would want to move, you know what I'm saying?
It's a lot of capital.
I'm aware of
but I
the
don't think there's a
capital.
play. I don't think there's a player. Maybe if you think Will Johnson or somebody is, I don't know if there's a player in this draft that you're going to move up 15 spots to get.
Agreed. Custodian.
Okay.
Yeah, right there, Jenna?
Yeah, I was confused.
So when he moves back, it's crushing because you're sitting there all Thursday night and now you're like, shit. And then last year you moved back, trade with the Chiefs. We've already determined that. I'm going to have a Chiefs fan in the comments that'll say, we're in your head. Yeah, no, Sherlock. Yeah, you are, because the Chiefs have been the Chiefs. But you traded back twice, got out of the first round. Trading up has not been great.
You giggled.
Yeah, I mean, trading up has not been great, but that doesn't mean you stop doing it.
Staying where you are, you got Greg Rousseau. I think they were kind of stuck that
I think that was kind of we're going to pick.
My hot take? Sorry, I just got distracted. And I found a note that I had. It's a really good running back class.
No, they're not taking a running
back.
In
the first. Not the first. Whoa. There could be one on Friday. There could be a running back on Friday.
Could see that.
And then the message is clear.
Oh.
There ain't no...
I love James so much that I drafted another guy.
So I clipped Josh's comment about Cook and saying, hey, like, I'm not the GM. And he referred to him as James. And people were commenting, he didn't call him
Jimbo.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. I also had so many people.
Loves him though. He does.
I also had so many people in my mentions because I tweeted the clip of that he didn't know that Trey White was there. And people were like, fake news. There's no way he didn't know.
There's no way he didn't know.
There's no way he didn't know.
Somebody texted him, even if he's off social.
Yeah.
Hey, we just signed. It's Trey freaking White.
Yeah.
Yes, he knew.
That's crazy, Dan.
He knew.
I think that's his subtle way of saying he's not on social media as much anymore. But
also, do you think that was like $20 from Kevin Kearns to be like, hey, if you tell this story,
yeah,
could be.
Like, I do think that like Josh is that kind of guy.
Somebody asked, how many first round grades do you think Bean has? I saw one. I think it was it Tony Pauline? One of the reporters had a thing that said the Bills have 12 first round grades on players this year. I don't know if that's the case. I would say he didn't say it. He always says, I don't have 30, which I understand. And he made the point, Jenna, that you were talking about where it's the Bills board that we talked about. So some of it is based on them. I would say it's in the teens max. I would say it's probably closer to 15, somewhere in that range.
Yeah.
So, but that doesn't mean your guy isn't there.
That's
that
also
have,
true.
Right?
That's true.
By the way, what did you say? More likely.
Trade back.
It is. It's more likely.
I know.
But it'd be more fun if they traded.
It'd be a hell of a lot more fun.
Sucks. I just hate it. It's so boring.
Yeah.
And then the next day you're just like, well, they could go in this direction or that direction or whatever. Predictions.
Staying put at 30, Trey Amos.
Okay.
Trading back, getting Trey Amos.
Boo.
Yeah.
Alfred Collins.
In the first?
I'm not saying the first. I'm saying trading back. We already talked about trading back.
Getting him in the second round.
That
Darius
is my
Alexander.
player.
I don't care if he's 29 years old.
Same.
I think the guy can play.
29 is so young. What are you talking about?
Age is just a number, right, old man?
I'm sorry. By the way,
just a
I do
number.
want to add one thing here. It was really hot here.
Thank you. Thank you.
I was like, oh, it's fine. And then I was like, it's hot in here, but I didn't want to admit it. It was kind of hot
This
in
is
here.
very big of you.
Yes.
You did have a take about the ages. Do you want to get that off while we're all...
They were talking about, who is it? Amos, that's 24?
Yeah.
I don't care.
Don't care.
If he's going to play corner for this team 4 years and then he's still really good and you re-up him on a deal before his fifth-year option, or you get him in the second round, just like you did with Benford, and you move him on, and he's your corner until he's 31 years old, Let's go.
My take.
Sign up for it.
I want to change my pick to Kenneth Grant at 30 or trading up a little bit.
Okay.
I could see them taking
Yeah.
Okay.
Grant. Yeah.
All right. Sorry. I had to get that on the record.
My thing about
so
age, I don't care about age. I just don't want that to be used as an excuse to when you draft a player and they're not good. And then you go, hey, they're young. You didn't just find out how old the guy was when you drafted him. That is part of the risk when drafting a young player.
And to the point of that, it is Josh Allen's prime. This team is this close to the Super Bowl, okay? And I'd rather have the guy that's 24
but can contribute
and is maybe more mature than to wait. I'd rather the maturity comes from playing at Alabama or Michigan or that. I'd rather
or Toledo.
He liked Toledo. He hung around Toledo for a while.
Some nice Maction.
I'm gonna pass out.
Stephen Burns says. Stephen Burns says
so high. I had to put up my hair.
Burden can't run a route. I don't think that's the case.
Is this Mike's hot yoga session? Jeff Peterson.
That's not the case. Burden didn't have a quarterback or an offensive system to throw him the football beyond the line of scrimmage last year. He's really fine. He's a great wide receiver that can do a lot.
Okay. So Amos.
Pop says Elam is still young. That is true.
Again, there are reasons and there are excuses.
God, there's so many words of wisdom that I've imparted on you.
Do you know what I say to myself every single day, which pisses me off? This is what Mike told me. Do what you have to do now so you can do what you want to do later. Literally putting away laundry anyway. And I was like, this mother. You were right, but yeah.
No, Jeff, the hot yoga session is not hot yoga. It is
Pilates. I'm going to make it Pilates/bar.
I thought it was Barry. B-A. It's B-A-R-R-E, correct?
It's bar.
That was a Barry class.
I love you so much. Oh my God. Oh, that's so rich. Okay. All right. Anything else?
All we want to say is be with us tomorrow. We will come on. Jenna's going to be itching to talk early. That's the way she is. Yeah. We'll be up well before the Bills are ready to pick to sort of set things up because you never know when they're going to make a move. So we'll be up live so you can follow along. And they do the same thing on Friday when they have 2 picks. Who knows? They may have 3 picks on Friday. Like, we don't know what's going to go on. So
that's an old timer. Thought it was Barry.
God.
Thought it was Irish.
Pop said that's the open. Look at that. We got contributors.
Okay.
Cyrus O'Torrance.
Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. From Mike Catalana and Dan Fates, I am Jenna Cottrell. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And join us tomorrow on the draft, or day 1 of the draft. Like Mike talked about, we'll have plenty of coverage. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll catch you next time here on Buffalo Plus, presented by Connors and Ferris.